Please, after we've finished here, go and have a look. Have a look at the stacks, and please go and have a look at an exhibition that we set up in the corner underneath the plaque, the original plaque from 1981, where you can see archives charting the history of this wonderful library. Every copy of every book has a story. Starting with the first edition, there is the story of the creation of the book and the story of its creator, the publisher, the printer or scribe, the binder, the vendor, and the reader. Then the second edition, and the story of why a second version was created, who commissioned it, who recreated it, who cherished it. And the subsequent editions, reprints and revisions, and the story of who edited them, changed them, illustrated them, made a facsimile, who bought them, who owned them, who borrowed them, loaned them, lost them or stole them, who found them and rescued them. Every copy of every book has a story. Thanks to the University of Florida and Jack and Samuel Price, the Isser and Ray Price Library of Judaica has 90,000 such stories on its shelves. Today we stand next to a library with a proud history of collecting and preserving all of these Jewish stories, including a good number of stories that would have otherwise been lost, and we pledge that the Price Library of tomorrow will continue that tradition. Today we rededicate this library. Tomorrow we renew our commitment to its patrons here at the Center for the Jewish Studies, in the wider university, and around the nation to preserve and develop the collecting strengths of the current collection. Tomorrow we offer a new commitment to become a center of excellence for Jewish life and culture in the Americas, with a strong focus on Southern Jewry, Florida Jewry, and the Jews of Latin America. Tomorrow we will begin to seek out those materials that will fulfill our new commitment, starting with an effort to require resources like the Forverts newspaper microfilm, a massive archive chronicling the heart of Jewish America. Tomorrow we will send out a message that this library is a great library. We will harness the power of the digital age, and we will bring the library's scarce and special holdings to the wider world. We will begin by digitizing the library's anniversary editions of Jewish World newspapers, and we will expand to include our other scarce and important serials. But today we will rededicate this library by bringing a new story to its shelves. This is the story of one of the world's most beautiful Hebrew manuscripts, the Rothschild Miscellany. The Rothschild Miscellany was commissioned by Moses ben Yekutiel HaKohen in the 15th century at the height of the Italian Renaissance. This manuscript is the most lavishly executed Hebrew manuscript of that era. It consists of over 70 religious and secular works, as well as a wealth of material illustrating daily life in a Jewish Renaissance household, leading to its description as a library within a book. Over 800 of its 948 pages are decorated in meticulous detail and illuminated with lavish reds, blues, silver, and gold. The Miscellany's precise history is a mystery. In the mid-19th century, it formed part of the Solomon de Parenti collection in Trieste. The manuscript was later sold to the Rothschild family in Paris, where it remained until it was stolen during the Nazi occupation. After the war, it reappeared in New York when a dealer tried to sell it to the librarian at the Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. The librarian determined that it was the missing Rothschild Miscellany and returned it to the family. In 1957, the Miscellany was given to the B'Tselem Museum in Israel after its director had persuaded the Rothschilds of its national importance. Today it can be viewed in the Israel Museum. The book that I have before me is a facsimile of the Passover Haggadah, which is part of the Rothschild Miscellany. Its story is equally fascinating. It is the story of a couple from London, Michael and Linda Falter, who love Hebrew manuscripts so much that they want to provide copies of these rare objects that they can be widely consulted and appreciated without further damage to the original. Together they created a company called Facsimile Editions. Their first facsimile was the Kennicott Bible, held in the Bodleian Library in Oxford. This manuscript is so fragile and so immensely valuable that relatively few art historians and scholars have ever been allowed to study it. Together, the Falters pioneered a method of reproducing the parchment using the finest paper from Italy, and by engaging the best Italian printers, gilders, and binders. The result, with remarkable attention to detail and painstakingly produced over 5.5 years, won international acclaim, and the facsimile was declared the most faithful copy ever produced. Their second project, to which they applied the same dedication, and for which they employed the finest Milanese artisans, was the Rothschild Miscellany. The facsimile has received equal widespread admiration. The Haggadah that you see before you is an offshoot of that project, an important section of the Miscellany, and described as the most sumptuous of all the illuminated Haggadot. The Falters felt that it deserved its own separate edition. The separate edition is also accompanied by a superb translation of the text and poems by the renowned scholar and translator Professor Raphael Lowy, at whose feet it was once my own privilege to sit. It is a limited edition of 400 copies. And now, as we add our own beautiful copy of this work to the already wonderful collection of Haggadot at the Isser and Ray Price Library of Judaica, we give it a new story. For this story is an edition with a page handwritten by the Falters calligrapher, dedicating our copy to Jack and Samuel Price, and thanking them for their incredible support over the last 30 years. This copy carries with it then the Price Library's extraordinary past, the story of its marvelous rededication one day in March of 2011, and the story of its great future and continued promise. Hallelujah. Come and see it.
Come and see it and say a few words.
So we're now going to invite Jack and Sam to come up and speak. I don't know whether you want to come together or one at a time.
Go ahead, Jack.
Jack Price.
I'll stand by Jack. You know, my mother named me Simcha, and it means joy in Jewish. If she'd only known, she would have called me Shlamasa. That means troublemaker. But it's wonderful to be here at the rededication. You know, you talk about age, we've heard someone talk about being 89 years old. Well, I'm pushing 85. I travel a lot. But now when I travel, I have to keep telling my feet, move. It's a little harder. Behind our dedication to the Price Library is the thought, it's not for us present, it's not for my children, but it's for all children who want to be able to study and advance their education. You know, it's one thing having a book in your library at home where it's a personal treasure. But to me, it's another thing putting that book out so everyone can enjoy it. Jack, I know we're speaking for you, and I'll let you speak. We appreciate all of your activity.
You know, when we have an occasion like this, I want to back off a little bit. I had a friend one time, he used to greet the day with, have a happy day. Everybody remembers Joe B. Saber, bless his soul. And he would greet everybody he met, have a happy day. And I have another great friend who's very dear to me. He would conduct a meeting or have an occasion, and when he met in front of a crowd like this, he would say, Good Yontif. Good Yontif means happy occasion, happy, or happy Sabbath. And everybody would respond, Good Yontif, and you felt good. And with that, I would say, Good Yontif. Okay, now we start. It's really something to come here and see such a nice rededication. It's, things are happenstance. And we go back 30 years, 35 years, my mother gave the tour to Beth Shalom, and just by work of things that happen, it ends up at the Price Library. It's amazing how things work out. And the books are written in words that will perpetuate good things in life, not bad things. And that's what we need to see more of, good things. There's too many bad things going on. But I want to tell you another story. The story is the 5 books of Moses. And we're getting near Passover, so we'll talk about Exodus, the story of the Jews leaving Egypt for freedom. And in the story of Exodus, God gives Moses the 10 Commandments. And in the 10 Commandments, it is so written, the 5th commandment, honor thy father and mother. And Sam and I, including my sisters, we live by that. We do honor our father and mother, and we think of it often. It's a great feeling. But also, in the story of Exodus, there's a book that was written, the Haggadah, the book that is written in Passover, which we're approaching. It's called an Haggadah. It's the story of the Exodus. And many years ago, let me back up a little bit. My wife was reading a book one day, for several days, and the book was titled The People of the Book. And in the people of the book, the authors wrote about the Saragovia Haggadah. And we had just met Jefferson, Dr. Jefferson, and we were shown the library. We go to her office, and there sitting on the desk is the Saragovia Haggadah. It's a very, very limited edition. The book was written in the 16th century, but it's a Haggadah in pictures, not written, but it's in pictures. And it's quite a unique publication. Well, my wife had been trying to locate a copy of it. She knew it was limited edition. So we had friends go to Canada, and they looked in the bookstore there. We called bookstores all over the country. We could not find this book. It was impossible to find. And there it is, sitting on Dr. Jefferson's shelf, and Miriam spotted it. And she said, oh my gosh, where did you get this? It's really a treasure. Well, lo and behold, about 3 weeks later, we got a call from Dr. Jefferson. There is one copy in a bookstore in Boston. And we got on the phone, and we acquired that copy. And it's really interesting to get a rare book like that to enjoy it, to appreciate it. It's a story of Passover, and written in the 16th century, but this book has a history on it. It goes through revolutions, the Nazis taking over the area, the books being burned. The authors wrote a detailed history of this book. as it traveled through Europe, from Sarajevo to Italy to Spain, and it's still, the original copy still sits in the library in Sarajevo. It's just an amazing story, nice and coincidence. And then once the Passover coming, I thought you would appreciate how rare books are just appreciated. Other than that, you know, Tom Hanks once said, who did he quote?
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, Forrest Gump, he says, what did he say? He said, that's all, folks.
Again, thank you very much, all of you, for coming
Thanks for the help.
this afternoon.
I knew what it was.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Sam.
We like
Please,
to
as I
thank
said,
you.
please go and see our exhibition cases over by the Price Library Judaica.
You like
And
that?
please, we will conduct tours back to library, East Spanners Library, to see the exhibition on the second floor there too, if you'd like to come and look.